Thank you so much, Professor Chang Chia-dung, and greetings to you in Beijing. Good afternoon to you.
Yeah.
Let me also take this opportunity to send my greetings to my co-panelists from across the world. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you at this global conclave hosted by the Nepal Institute of International Cooperation and Engagement. I'm going to talk about China and South Asia, and I'm going to provide an Indian perspective on China and South Asia. Professor Chang, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, and like the others, I think we are all prepared to speak for 10 minutes. So I'm going to take about 10 minutes overall, but not more than that. Um, the first point I'll make is that, India understands that as a sovereign nation, China has the right to build its own relationships with other countries in South Asia, including India, of course, because all of them are sovereign countries also. However, India believes that in its neighborhood and across the world, China should show sensitivity to the interests as well as the concerns of other countries. And here, India has a problem with the way China approaches South Asia. And the prime example is the China Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a very important part of the Belt and Road Initiative or the One Belt, One Road project. As everyone knows, the China Pakistan Economic Corridor actually traverses a part of geography which India claims as its own. And therefore, when the China Pakistan Economic Corridor was conceived and was on the drawing board, India would have expected China to consult with us, to share this information with us, because of the fact that the China Pakistan Economic Corridor passes through a territory which is currently under the administrative control of Pakistan, but which India claims as its own in Kashmir. So we think that China was very insensitive in going ahead with the China Pakistan Economic Corridor without any kind of information sharing or any kind of consultation with India on this alignment of the CPEC, the China Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is an important part of the Belt and Road Initiative. There are other problems of China's development assistance to South Asian countries. And we in India are completely aware that countries will seek such development assistance in their own interests because they want to develop, they want to improve the standards of living of their people. So there's nothing wrong with that. But there are questions about China's development assistance in certain parts of South Asia, particularly the sustainability of such development assistance. And here again, let me provide just one example, which is the port project in Hambantota in Sri Lanka, where the Sri Lankan government is not able to repay the loans that the Chinese government has provided for this project, and it has led to other consequences. So the sustainability of such projects is something that has, it has provided concern. It has concerned countries across the world, and including here in South Asia. I'd like to just divert a little bit and talk about the BRI as against the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. And the reason why I want to talk about it is that India is a very important member. We're the second largest shareholder in the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. And India herself gets a lot of assistance, and we are being assisted on several projects by AIIB. But at the same time, on the Belt and Road Initiative, we are not participating in the Belt and Road Initiative. We don't participate in the summit meetings, which have been held twice in Beijing. And the reason for that is because of the sensitivities, which I've already mentioned. But I'd also like to say that the AIIB is completely transparent in its approach to projects. On the website of the AIIB, you can get a whole list of projects which have been funded, financed by AIIB. You can get a list of projects which are up for consideration at the next meeting of the AIIB, but you do not have similar transparency where the Belt and Road Initiative or the One Belt, One Road initiative is concerned. And that is a problem for us. And therefore, very often I was asked how India can be a member of AIIB but not support the Belt and Road. But that's the answer. The transparency and other factors which AIIB maintains is not something which is maintained in the Belt and Road Initiative. And finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about the current situation between China and India, because as many of you know, that in the summer of 2020, which was almost a year ago, in early May of 2020, China moved large numbers of troops, almost 2 to 3 divisions of troops, 50 to 60,000 soldiers, to what is called the western sector of the India-China boundary area or the border areas. The boundary, of course, between India and China has not been defined, has not been delimited, has not been agreed on as yet. But we do have many agreements between our two countries which aim at maintaining peace and tranquility between our two armies, between our two countries, between our two governments. And this movement of so many troops in the summer of 2020 to the western sector of the India-China boundary violated all those agreements which we have had, and there are several of them dating back to 1993, which state that neither country, neither India nor China, will move such large numbers of troops without intimating the other side. So there has been a standoff between the Indian army and the Chinese PLA in that geography. It has continued for almost a year. About a year back in June, there was loss of life on both sides, which was the first time in 45 years that there was a incident on the border between India and China, which led to the loss of soldiers, where soldiers died on both sides. And that is something which has been taken very badly in India. Um, Let me, of course, link this with what our Malaysian colleague was saying, our co-panelist was saying about how Malaysia views some of China's actions in the South China Sea. And that leads me to the two final points, Professor Chang, which I would like to make, which is first, countries across the globe are wondering why there is this aggressiveness and aggression on the part of China. It's something which is not understood here in India, definitely. And from what I understood from our Malaysian co-panelist, it is not understood in Malaysia either. And it is not understood in many countries across the world. So this is a question that I would like to ask because we have no answers to it on our own. And perhaps Professor Chang and Dr. Nian Peng can elaborate on that later. But why is it that China is suddenly being aggressive across the world in different geographies, whether on the border with India, whether in the South China Sea, whether in the East China Sea, whether in the Taiwan Straits, and also in its own periphery, which is in Hong Kong and in Xinjiang? So we'd like to understand what is pushing that. And my final point, Professor Chang, is that we all accept and know that China is a major power in the world today. It is the second largest economy in the world. But we would have expected Chinese behavior as a major power to be different from the major powers and the way they behaved over the last 200 years, because those major powers were all former colonial powers. China is the first big country which has not been a colonial power and which has actually been negatively impacted by colonialism in the 1800s and 1900s also. So we would have expected that China's behavior as a major power would be different from that of what has happened over the past 200 years, because all those major powers over the past 200 years were colonial powers, were ex-colonial powers, if you want to call it that way. And therefore, I would say that from an Indian perspective, we're a little disappointed with China's actions and behavior. And I've referred to the aggressive actions of China as a major power in the world. So I'm going to stop there, Professor Chang, and hand the floor back to you. Thank you very much for listening so patiently.